The International Security Assistance Force is entering into a new phase of the Afghan conflict. The Afghan National Security Forces, or ISAF, has taken the lead for security in Afghanistan, and ISAF has moved into a supporting role. While the ISAF have proven that they're capable of conducting combat operations, they still need some continued advice and assistance, especially in the functional processes that sustain their fielded forces. This presentation will introduce you to functionally based security force assistance, which is the path that ISAF has taken to ensure that the ISAF will be able to sustain itself beyond the ISAF mission that ends after December 2014. We will first discuss the change in mission focus for the coalition. Next, we will present a few definitions associated with security force assistance, or SFA, so that we have a common understanding of SFA in Afghanistan. We will then provide a short segment on the operational environment that SFA advisors will find in Afghanistan, which will be followed with some specifics of the various levels where advisors work with their Afghan counterparts. We will end the brief with an introduction to the SFA guide and how it will be useful to the SFA advisor. In June 2013, NATO transferred the lead for security in Afghanistan to the ISAF. ISAF is facing a fast-closing window of opportunity to effect change within the ISAF. Due to the ever-decreasing number of ISAF personnel, which reduces the operational reach of ISAF, and the limited timeline available, ISAF has to prioritize its efforts with the ISAF. We need to identify ISAF capability gaps, identify the processes that provide those capabilities, identify the critical nodes of the processes, and put scarce advisor resources against those critical nodes. ISAF is beginning its transition to a functionally based framework that focuses on capability gaps in Afghan institutional processes. This focus will produce a self-sustainable ISAF. This transition to a functional security force assistance approach is critical as ISAF postures the force for resolute support. This quote from Field Marshal Montgomery is relevant to those advisors conducting the functionally based security force assistance mission in Afghanistan. Not only must the advisor know how the Afghan process works at his level, he must be knowledgeable on how the Afghan process within a functional area works from Kandak or district level all the way up to the ministry. He must be knowing of the vertical and horizontal processes within the Afghan system. In the fall of 2001, coalition forces, along with elements of the Northern Alliance and other Afghan resistance groups, toppled the Taliban. During the years of 2002 to 2008, the coalition was in a consolidation phase with a strategy of disrupting al-Qaeda, defeating the Taliban militarily, and rebuilding the core institutions of the Afghan government. Combat operations could be characterized as coalition-led. It was during this time that the coalition helped stand up the 1st Afghan Battalion, or Kandak, in late 2002. In 2009, the coalition adopted a more aggressive strategy with the introduction of the surge forces to buy time and space for the rapid buildup, training, and fielding of the ISAF. During this time period, the coalition increased its counterinsurgency effort and shifted to a population-centric coin strategy. From 2010 to 2011, the coalition entered into a partnering phase where it moved from unilateral operations to conducting operations alongside Afghan forces. During the 2012-2013 period, the coalition introduced the Security Force Assistance Model, deploying hundreds of Security Force Assistance Advisor Teams, or SFATs, to advise and assist the Afghan National Army and Afghan National Police. Beginning in 2014 and extending into the Resolute Support Mission that starts in January 2015, the coalition will be conducting functionally based security force assistance. In 2012, the commander of ISAF released a memorandum providing guidance on the conduct of security force assistance in Afghanistan. This guidance was contained in 15 principles. The principles covered 3 broad categories: mission, mindset, and approach. These principles are explained in detail in the Security Force Assistance Guide 2.0, which we will introduce later in this presentation. We will now examine more closely the SFA principles associated with mission. There are three Security Force Assistance principles associated with mission. Security Force Assistance is the way the coalition will help the Afghans to be successful in the transition to being in the lead for security and to ensure the sustainability of their security forces and institutions in the future. Security Force Assistance is conducted from the ministries down to the tactical level. Alternative chains of command and ad hoc organizations should not be built. Advisors need to work within the Afghans' chain of command. The Afghan success is our success. Therefore, all elements of the force deliver Security Force Assistance. SFA is the way by which we achieve the mission, and SFA teams are one of the means, but they do not represent the only means. The SFA principles in the mission category are directly related to the change of mission focus for the coalition forces. We will now view a video that examines the shift in mission focus for ISAF and SFA advisors.
On the 18th of June this year, Afghans took responsibility for securing all provinces in Afghanistan with ISAF in support. By the end of 2014, they will have lead responsibility for the country and transition will be complete. By then, ISAF forces will have repositioned to a follow-on mission known as NATO Resolute Support. This repositioning of troops has been going on for over a year now.
ISAF and coalition forces had approximately 900 bases of different stripes across the country. That has now been reduced to probably 70 to 80 bases, ranging from combat outposts through to airfields like Bagram and Kandahar. So you can see the reduction has been substantial. And indeed, in many cases, it's not a reduction, but a transfer of those bases to ANSF forces.
Security Force Assistance has helped to generate, employ, sustain and assist the Afghan National Security Forces. As Afghan security forces prove themselves more capable, the role of advisors on the ground is changing.
To this point, what we really have focused on was the combat advising role of that mission. The neat thing about where we are right now with the transition in lead security to the Afghan security forces is our focus now is changing. And that focus is changing now to that self-sustaining functions. And so we're becoming less focused on combat advising, much more focused on functions, specifically with sustainability.
The focus on sustainability will cover 5 areas: command and control, leadership, combined arms integration for the ANA and integrated layered security for the AMP, training and sustainment. This change is referred to as functionally oriented security force assistance. So on the ground, instead of advisors talking about the corps they might work with, they'll be defined by the function they advise, from the corps to the ministerial level.
Well, really we're looking at providing the ability to professionalise the Ministry of Defence. So using the skills that the advisors have got to try and develop their skills to a point whereby they can execute their resource accounting, their budgeting, their procurement, their acquisition, run their personnel systems effectively, to try and make sure that they've got the institutional resilience to be able to run a professional army.
In order to assist those advisors who don't have a lot of experience in working at a ministerial level, a number of process maps have been created which will describe how the functions link together. And, in line with the SFA principle of mindset, these processes will be written from an Afghan perspective. The end result will benefit not only the Afghan National Security Forces, but the public too.
We've got to find a solution that will get them close enough to being self-sustaining, that it does predominantly, that it garners confidence from the Afghan people in the Afghan National Security Forces' ability to protect them, to give them confidence, not just in the army, but in the police, but probably just as importantly, in their national government, to be able to provide for them. And that, I think, we can get to.
A key to having a basic understanding of the ISAF SFA mission lies in knowing some of the terms associated with SFA. We will take a closer look at these 3 terms and their definitions. In the Resolute Support Mission, the focus will be on train, advise, and assist. However, there are some Afghan units and organizations that will still be in the organize, equip, build, and rebuild phase, such as the Afghan Air Force, or AAF, and some specialty Kandaks. I will give you a moment to read the definition for SFA. Functionally based SFA is a shift in focus for advisors from unit-based combat advising to advising that is functionally focused and multi-echelon. In the context of functionally based security force assistance, sustainability is the ability of the ISAF to sustain their capabilities independently over the long term, especially beyond December 2014. The functionally based SFA framework mandates that coalition forces thoroughly understand the operational environment. To this end, we will now present some information about the structure of the ANSF and the coalition forces. The Afghan forces can be grouped into two distinct categories. The Afghan security institutions, or ASIs, consist of the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Interior, and the National Directorate of Security. The Afghan National Security Forces consist of the Afghan National Army, Afghan Air Force, and the Afghan National Police. The following video will provide an understanding of the organization and structure of the Afghan security institutions and the Afghan National Security Forces.
Since the fall of the Taliban in 2001, NATO and coalition forces have been working to rebuild the Afghan National Security Forces, or ANSF. The Ministry of Defence is composed of several operational and support entities that are controlled and coordinated by the MOD General Staff and National Military Command Centre. The operational commands include the ANA Special Operations Command, Afghan Air Force and Ground Forces Command. Support organisations include the ANA Training and Education Command, ANA Recruiting Command and other medical and logistic commands. The Afghan National Army, or ANA, falls under the Ministry of Defence. It's composed of 183,000 personnel, including nearly 10,500 special forces. The ANA structure includes corps located in various provinces around the country. Every corps is built up in a generic way. The Mobile Strike Force Kandaks are armoured, highly mobile, quick reaction units and are strategic assets on a national level. They are strategically located around Afghanistan. Also under the MOD umbrella is the Afghan Air Force, or AAF. The force is made up of 6,700 personnel, including aircrew, maintenance and support staff. The AAF currently has a fleet of 92 fixed-wing and rotary aircraft. The re-establishment of the force began later than that of the Army and Police and is expected to transition to autonomous operations by 2017. The Afghan National Army Special Operations Command has 2 Special Operations Brigades, each consisting of 5 Special Operations Kandaks, comprised of ANA Commandos and ANA Special Forces. The Afghan Special Forces and Commandos are trained at ANA SOC's School of Excellence. ANA SOC receives air support from its Special Mission Wing. Additional units to be fielded to ANA SOC include a Mobile Strike Force and General Support Kandak.
I think in the field the ANA has really performed quite remarkably. There's been a big effort by the insurgency this year, but the ANA has held its ground and has always prevailed many fights. So its performance in the field is quite remarkable. But institutionally it's still not very mature and it needs greater depth in its institutions to be able to make the right sort of decisions at the ministerial level. But they are blessed by the fact that they have very capable leadership, both by the Ministry of Defence and the Chief of the General Staff, which enables them to actually provide decisive leadership.
There are multiple police organisations within the Ministry of Interior. The Afghan uniformed police include community police, traffic police and firefighters. The Afghan Border Police secure the borders and points of entry. The Afghan National Civil Order Police provides crisis and anti-terror response capabilities in urban environments. The Afghan Local Police, or ALP, provides security at the local community level. Other police entities include the Counter-Narcotics Police Afghan Public Protection Force and General Directorate Police Special Units.
The major development or the major successes have been in the tactical type areas and intelligence areas within the AMP. Working within the ANSF, there's been a real focus on that, so those areas are reasonably well developed.
Many of the police trainers acknowledged that policing in Afghanistan is quite different to policing back home.
Certainly a lot of room for improvement, but I have to remember that they are warriors at the end of the day, and they've got insurgents. I might have the local drunk on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, but it's not so often that they're armed with weapons, so it's very different indeed, and they're brave warriors.
Around 90% of the training of the Afghan National Security Forces is now carried out by Afghans. However, there are still thousands of coalition trainers working out in the field. Their role is changing, though, from combat advisors to helping develop Afghan processes and functions at the ministerial and corps level.
Having built the foundation, having built the walls, we now got to build the roof on this. And so, yes, there's going to be work to be done to build that roof. And that's exactly where we have to get at some of the ministerial level work. And it goes right on down, all the way down to the Kandax. So every day, they become less reliant on the the coalition force that's here. But there's still a lot of work to be done.
The 18th of June 2013 marked the transfer of lead security responsibility from ISAF to the Afghan National Security Forces. From now until December 2014, ISAF forces will create the conditions so the ANSF can grow confident in their ability to provide integrated layered security. In turn, the Afghan people will increasingly grow more confident in the ANSF providing a secure environment.
As noted earlier, the Afghan security institutions, or ASIs, include the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Interior, and the National Directorate of Security. In addition, there are a number of other ministry-level organizations grouped into a category called non-security ministries. Some of these other ministries, such as the Ministry of Counter-Narcotics and Ministry of Justice, may also receive advisor attention from the international community in the future. There will likely be a large international effort of various governmental and non-governmental organizations to assist the non-security ministries and other Afghan governmental organizations. However, in 2014 and beyond, coalition advisors will concentrate primarily on the Ministry of Defense, its training institutions, and the fielded forces in the Afghan National Army and the Afghan Air Force. This slide introduces you to some of the organizations in ISAF that are conducting the great majority of the Train, Advise, and Assist mission. This is not a complete organizational chart of ISAF. ISAF is much larger than depicted. The structure of ISAF was changed in October 2013 to more effectively align the force for the functionally based Security Force Assistance mission and reflect the reduced footprint of the coalition in Afghanistan. One of the biggest changes was the realignment of NATO Training Mission Afghanistan, or MTMA. ISAF Joint Command, or IJC, has taken over responsibility for much of the ANSF training to include the ANA, AMP, and the Afghan Air Force. NATO Special Operations Component Command Afghanistan, or NSOC-A, will continue to train specialized units of the ANA and the AMP. This slide depicts the structural changes for ISAF Joint Command, or IJC. NATO Training Mission Afghanistan is now subordinate to ISAF Joint Command. Combined Security Transition Command Afghanistan, or SSTICA-A functions, have moved to Headquarters ISAF. The Ministerial Advisory Groups, or MEGs, are realigned with Headquarters ISAF. The NATO Air Command Afghanistan, or NAC-A, is now part of IJC, along with the NATO Air Training Command Afghanistan. A key component of the ISAF advisory effort in Afghanistan is the Deputy Commander Ministerial Advisory Group, commonly referred to as DCOM-MAG. DCOM-MAG is led by a two-star general officer, and he heads up 3 ministerial advisory groups, one for the MOD, one for the MOI, and one for non-security ministries. There are also 4 Enterprise Advisory Groups, or EAGs. The MOD and MOI MAGs provide a coalition advisor presence at the Afghan security institutions, and together with consultancy support from the EAGs, help the Afghans improve in areas such as strategic planning, budget development, and sustainment. The DCOM MAG chairs a Joint Coordination Board, or JCB, in order to synchronize and integrate all of these agencies and organizations in the functionally based SFA effort. All ISAF commands and most ISAF staffs are represented on the Joint Coordination Board. Advisors working at this level will need to be very experienced and trained in the specific area that they are advising. Advisors working at the ministry level will need to be strategic level personnel, and some will need to be very specialized. Ministerial advisory groups train, advise, and assist within the Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Defense, and non-security ministries. The MAGs provide functional train, advise, and assist to develop sustainable ANSF capacity and capabilities in the support of the government of Afghanistan. The ministerial advisory groups integrate, coordinate, and synchronize all SFA activities in support of ANSF development. The ministerial advisory groups, in conjunction with the enterprise advisory groups, provide an integrated approach to develop critical ministerial functions for ANSF development and sustainability. While the 3 ministerial advisory groups, or MAGs, advising the MOD, MOI, and non-security ministries have been in existence for quite a while, the enterprise advisory groups are recently formed organizations. These 4 broad, functionally aligned groups advise Afghan ministry-level officials in deliberate planning, programming, budgeting, and execution. These 4 functional enterprises are Human Resources Management, Inspector General Transparency, Accountability, and Oversight, focused on combating corruption; Sustainment, which consists of logistics, acquisition, and resource management; and finally, Strategic Plans and Policy, which synchronizes the MOD, MOI, and the National Director of Security with appropriate policy. The Coalition will continue to provide advisors to the ANSF fielded units. The Corps Level Advisor Platform will conduct train, advise, and assist at the regional and operational level. This Corps platform will retain a reservoir of functional capability to reach down to the tactical level. The Corps Level Advisor Platform will be staffed by 246 military and civilians. The functional composition will drive personnel sourcing by the troop contributing nations. The Corps platform will have several subordinate advisor teams. This Corps platform structure will be maintained into the Resolute Support mission. The ANA team will have senior mentors and functional advisors and will advise the Corps leadership and staff. The training team will provide advisors and trainers to the Regional Corps Battle School, or RCBS. The OCCR team will provide advisors to the Operational Coordination Centers found at the regional level and to selected OCCs at the provincial level. The AMP team will advise the Afghan Uniform Police and the Afghan Border Police. There will be 2 logistical teams, one advising the ANA's Regional Logistics Support Command, or RLSC, and the other advising the Afghan National Police Regional Logistics Center, or RLC. At the Corps level and below, the processes that sustain the ANSF have been grouped into 5 functional pillars. The chain of command remains unchanged and is not negatively impacted by the functional advisor teams and the advisor network. This is no different than any other military unit found in the coalition. A military organization has its chain of command and has its staff sections with their vertical technical lines of communication. The functional pillars with the functional advisor network found within it are another form of technical communication up and down the coalition structure. Let's examine the 5 functional pillars more closely. C2 is the exercise of authority and direction by a properly designated commander over all assigned and attached forces in the accomplishment of a mission. This is also communications and intelligence and could be referred to as C3I. Leadership is the ability of the Corps commander and subordinate leaders to provide purpose, direction, and motivation to accomplish all assigned missions. This includes the accountability of the leader to the led, technical mastery of warfare, operational planning, anti-corruption, troop welfare, discipline, and merit-based promotions. Combined Arms Integration is the ability of the ANSF to effectively integrate all available forces, assets, and enabler systems at the decisive point of the battle or in the stability, security, and protection of a community. This includes the ability to integrate all the warfighting functions into combined arms training management. Additionally, it includes capability development to include fielding of equipment and systems. For the Afghan National Police, this pillar is referred to as Integrated Layered Security. Training is the ability of the ANSF to conduct individual and collective mission-focused training, institutional training, and to assess and maintain proficiency on all critical tasks. Sustainment is the ability of the ANSF to independently sustain training and operational missions. This includes medical, contracting, requisition and distribution, maintenance, human resources management, and base operations support. We will now look at how these 5 functional pillars fit into the overall operational environment, and then illustrate how one specific process issue could be resolved. Off to the right, you see the 6-step process that MOD and MOI advisors use, together with support from the Non-Security Ministry Ministerial Advisory Group and consultancy from the Enterprise Advisory Groups. This 6-step process will aid the advisors to help the ANSF follow their process and develop solutions to sustainment issues. This is a complicated slide with a lot of information, so we will build it from scratch and slowly complete it. At the end of the build, you will see this complete slide once again. Once again, here are our 5 functional pillars. These functional pillars contain processes that start at the ANA Kandak and AMP district and Kandak levels and extend vertically up to the ministries. ISAF has identified a 6-step process for observing, reporting, and resolving an ANSF functional pillar issue. These steps provide a system for an advisor at any level to report and coordinate up and down the functional pillar using the advisor network. The first step is observation. This is where the advisor discovers a problem that the ANSF are having trouble solving. The second step is communication. The advisor elevates the issue using the advisor process network. The advisor process network is simply the chain of advisors working at each level along a functional pillar, both vertically and horizontally. The third step is discrimination. The ANSF Operations Cell decides if the problem can be solved at the Ministerial Advisory Group or Enterprise Advisory Group level, or if it should be elevated higher. In this example, if raised higher, then perhaps the problem is more than a sustainment process issue, that the problem is related to one or more of the other functional pillars. The fourth step is synchronization and integration. At this stage, the Joint Coordination Board, or JCB, gets involved and synchronizes across the Enterprise Advisory Groups, Ministerial Advisory Groups, and the subordinate headquarters. The fifth step is coordination. The Joint Coordination Board determines which pillars are involved and coordinates solutions up and down the chain. The sixth and final step is resolution. The Joint Coordination Board identifies solutions and passes the information to all organizations. Up to this point, our briefing has been knowledge-based, providing you with information and facts about the ANSF, ISAF, and functionally based security force assistance. We are now going to apply some of that knowledge to a specific advisor situation. Sergeant First Class Jones works at the Corps level advisor platform on the team advising the AMP Regional Logistics Center as an ammunition advisor. Sergeant First Class Jones is a very experienced senior NCO. He is knowledgeable on the U.S. Army ammunition process due to his many years of experience in this field. He has received advanced training in logistics. He has had previous advisor experience in previous Afghan deployments. Sergeant First Class Jones was handpicked for his advisor assignment not only because of his military occupational specialty, rank, age, and experience, but also because he possesses attributes that are necessary to be an effective advisor. These attributes include empathy, ability to work by, with, and through host nation counterparts, patience, ability to generate influence without formal authority, good communication skills, the ability to solve complex problems. He is good at building rapport in relationships, and he possesses a make-to attitude. In addition to having the right qualifications and attributes for the Afghan advisor position, Sergeant Jones has also received extensive pre-deployment training. During the different phases of pre-deployment training, both at his home unit and at attendance to the Joint Multinational Readiness Center, or JMRC, in Hohenfels, Germany, he received extensive training on the mission, structure, and composition of the Afghan National Police. He was extensively briefed on the AMP logistics system and sustainment process. Once he arrived in theater, he was introduced to the advisor network that exists horizontally and vertically that can assist him in the performance of his advisor duties. We will now present to you a scenario to illustrate how an advisor would assist his Afghan counterparts with a specific process issue. In most cases, the coalition advisor can advise and assist his Afghan counterparts at the local level. However, there will be times when the advisor needs the assistance of other advisors in the advisor network who work at other adjacent or higher organizations. In our scenario, an ammunition advisor working at the Corps level advisor platform on the team advising the AMP Regional Logistics Center has observed a problem that the Afghans cannot seem to solve. The problem at hand is there is a lack of ammunition for an AMP unit at a lower level. We will walk through the methodology the advisor would use to assist the Afghans in fixing this ammunition shortage. This is his Afghan counterpart. Sergeant Jones's job is to make sure his Afghan counterpart is able to sustain the Afghan National Police with weapons and equipment. Working by, with, and through his Afghan counterpart, Sergeant Jones ensures the AMP can accomplish their mission. Sergeant Jones works at the Regional Logistics Center, or RLC, as one of the 19 total personnel, 10 military, 9 civilian. This group of personnel are tasked with overall advising efforts for the Afghan Police Regional Logistics Center. Coalition advisors are able to visit lower echelon Afghan units when they accompany their Afghan counterparts on battlefield circulation trips and staff assistance visits. As the ammunition NCO advisor, Sergeant Jones can utilize these trips with his counterparts to ensure the Afghan units are progressing towards self-sustainability. When Sergeant Jones goes on these battlefield circulation trips or staff assistance visits, one of the tools at his disposal is called a process map. That is, a depiction of an Afghan process from fielded unit up to the ministry level. Let's take a look at a process map more closely. Some personnel may not have been exposed to the concept of process maps. This slide depicts a simple version of a process map. The process depicted here is for purchasing coffee K-cups for a Keurig coffee machine online at Amazon.com. The process begins in the upper left-hand corner where the buyer goes online, and it ends in the lower left corner where the coffee is ready for drinking. The process maps for functional processes with the ISAF are much more complicated, but follow the same concept as the simple process map of buying coffee online. We've looked at an example of a process map depicting an everyday process, ordering an item from an internet site. While the ANSF process maps, currently totaling more than 50, all feel and look different, there are some common components. The process map we are viewing depicts the Afghan National Police sustainment process. It shows what steps the AMP takes to request and receive the supplies it needs to sustain itself. We will review the different components of this process map for a better understanding of how an advisor can use it. First, at the lower left of the map, highlighted in the red outline, is the bottom line upfront statement. This section provides information for the advisor that highlights important facts about the process. The section in the lower right is the process map legend. The map has red dots showing where friction points are in the process. Blue dots depict critical nodes in the process going up. Brown dots depict critical nodes in the process going down. Critical nodes are entities within the process that perform a crucial role. Blue arrows depict how the MOI 14, the form used to request supplies, makes its way up the chain of command. The black arrows show how the MO9, the form that accompanies the supplies once the request is filled, makes its way to the requesting unit. The left side of the process map depicts the process highlights and friction points. The text describes the A&P sustainment process step by step from the unit that needs the item all the way up the MOI chain of command to the ministry. The text in red notes friction points, places where the process doesn't work well for one reason or another, be it bureaucracy, corruption, personality clashes, or some other factor. Advisors will be spending a lot of time trying to help the Afghans to eliminate these friction points. Some sources of friction can be solved at the local level, but some will need to be elevated to higher levels for resolution, with advisors sending the problem all the way up to the institutional or ministry level. The middle of the slide is a graphical representation of the process. The process starts at the bottom of the slide at the Kandak, district center, or provincial level, then goes to the regional level at the A&P Regional Logistics Center, and finally ends at the national level at the top of the slide. On the right of the slide, the creators of this process map, advisors who work with the A&P at various levels, have made suggestions for how advisors might help their Afghan counterparts improve in this process at different levels. We have highlighted the graphics section of this process map once again. We will use these graphics in the next section of the brief. We will now return to Sergeant Jones and the specific situation of an ammunition shortage for a lower-level police unit. Sergeant Jones, along with other members of his advisory team, has the opportunity to accompany his Afghan counterparts on a staff assistance visit. He brings his A&P sustainment process map during their visit to a lower-level A&P unit. Remember the graphics portion of the A&P sustainment process map? It's now depicted within the sustainment functional pillar. Although Sergeant Jones is normally assigned to the Regional Logistics Center, or RLC, he is able to train, advise, and assist throughout the sustainment pillar at several of the points up and down the ammunition resupply process as depicted in the A&P sustainment process map. Once at the local AUP unit, Sergeant Jones observes that the troops do not have enough ammunition to accomplish their mission. His observations come from his interaction with his counterpart from the Regional Logistics Center and with the local AUP logistics officer. Next, the ammo advisor communicates the problem vertically to his senior advisor, as well as horizontally to the senior police advisor and logistics advisor at the Operations Coordination Center at the regional level. At the same time, their Afghan counterparts are also working with each other, trying to resolve the problem within the Afghan system. By utilizing other advisors in the network, these 4 advisors may be able to assist the Afghans in either working within the Afghan process or coming up with their own Afghan solution. In most instances, these problems can be resolved at the local level, with advisors assisting the Afghans in making their process work. In this example, in order to demonstrate how advisors can reach vertically up for assistance, the problem is too complex for the advisors to assist their Afghan counterparts. The Afghans pass the problem up their chain of command in an attempt to resolve the problem within the Afghan process. The coalition advisors pass the issue up their respective advisor chain until it reaches the ISAF operations cell, which discriminates the issue as one that can be handled by a specific enterprise advisory group or one that can be handled by a specific ministerial advisory group. The ministerial advisory group works with their counterparts within the MOI to find a solution to the problem. In this case, however, the problem falls across multiple enterprise advisory groups, ministerial advisory groups, and functional pillars. The ANSF Operations Cell refers the problem to the Security Force Assistance Working Group and the Joint Coordination Board. The Joint Coordination Board acts as the synchronizer and integrator for complex issues facing the ANSF. By coordinating with the three ministerial advisory groups as well as with the enterprise advisory groups, the Joint Coordination Board is able to coordinate across the spectrum to help the Afghans arrive at their solution. As directed by the Joint Coordination Board, the various enterprise advisory groups and ministerial advisory groups develop coordinated solutions with their Afghan counterparts up and down the functional pillar. Once the solution is fully developed, the resolution is released via Standard Operating Procedure, or FRAGO, as guidance for Sergeant Jones and other advisors on how to partner with their Afghan counterparts to solve this particular systemic issue. At the same time, this guidance also travels along the Afghan chain of command, or technical lines of communication. Each problem is different. Some will be solved at the local level, sometimes with the assistance from coalition advisors, and other problems will need to be elevated up both the Afghan and coalition advisor chain. Additionally, some challenges will be rooted in a single functional pillar, while others will contain aspects of all 5 pillars and possibly need assistance from more than one ministerial advisory group and enterprise advisory group. It is important to note that this is not an imposed coalition solution, but rather an Afghan solution that sometimes arrives with help from coalition advisors. At every level, the advisor works with his Afghan counterpart to make the Afghan process work, improve the process, and if necessary, change the process. We have shown you the 5 functional pillars, introduced you to an advisor who works the process advisor network to help the Afghans resolve problems, and shown you how process maps can assist an advisor. Next, we will take a quick look at the ISAF SFA guide. ISAF has published 2 Security Force Assistance Guides. The original guide was distributed in early 2013. The guide provided an understanding of the advisor selection criteria, advisor training requirements, and of the ANSF. In addition, the original SFA guide provided a framework for understanding the transition from combat operations and partnering with the ANSF to the new approach of security force assistance. The new ISAF Security Force Assistance Guide 2.0, published in January 2014, focuses ISAF on functionally based security force assistance. The new guide has much of the information in the earlier guide. In addition, it describes the functional pillars, functional enterprises, and has over 50 process maps. The Security Force Assistance Guide 2.0 has a number of features that should prove useful to the SFA advisor. It is designed for both office and field use. There will be 2 designs. One will be a hardbound copy, and the other will be a ring design that will allow the advisor to add or delete pages. Both designs will fit into a cargo or hip pocket. The SFA guide will be a living document and will be updated online as needed. This will allow the advisor to go online and print out up-to-date annexes or process maps. The guide will provide important information that will assist the advisor in the performance of his advisory role. This slide shows the ISAF SFA Guide 2.0 table of contents. The information presented in this brief is also found in greater detail in the guide. More information on SFA and ISAF functionally based SFA is available in chapters 1 and 2 of the guide. We briefly touched upon the advisor and his job on the advisor team. Chapter 3 will provide information on advisor selection, the role of the advisor, how to develop rapport, and some helpful information on the mitigation of the insider threat. We introduced the operational environment to you during this briefing. Chapter 4 explains in greater detail the change in mission focus and provides context for the SFA advisor in Afghanistan. Our presentation briefly introduced some of the organizations of the Afghan ministries and the ANSF. Chapter 5 provides greater detail about the Afghan security institutions and the ANSF. Annex A provides organizational charts that would help you become familiar with the various Afghan Army and police organizations. You were introduced to the structure of ISAF and its subordinate units and some of the advisory organizations at the ministry and corps level. Greater detail is provided in the guide. During this briefing, you were introduced to the process maps that illustrate specific Afghan functional processes. There are over 50 process maps in the guide. They will be available online and updated as needed. During the presentation, we did not present some topics that will be found in the ISAF SFA Guide 2.0. These include a chapter on ANSF assessments and annexes on pre-deployment training, individual advisor tasks on an advisor team, bibliography, glossary, and an acronym list. The advisor plays a key role in the security force assistance effort. He needs to understand the Afghan structure, organizations, and functions at every level, starting from the Kandak and district up to the ministries. The advisor has to become extremely familiar with the Afghan processes. Finally, he needs to understand the ISAF organizations and know where the other coalition advisors are along the vertical and horizontal ISAF structure. The desired end state is not a Western solution. It is a sustainable Afghan solution. Afghanistan has transformed over the last decade. Our efforts need to be oriented towards supporting an Afghan plan that will continue to build, sustain, increase, and advance JIROA for an enduring future. ISAF's plan for providing this support is through the functionally based security force assistance model.